Hey everyone, my name is Rooster, and welcome back to Mechabellum, and welcome to the very last video of Season 5, as tomorrow, Season 6 will be live on the servers. This game is one that I picked from the America's Elite Tournament last weekend between AWM and Apucci, and I think it is a good follow-up to a video I made 2 days ago about playing Mass Mustang to try and intercept. This game will have very similar themes, although a different unit to achieve the same purpose. AWM here goes for Giant Specialist with Sabres and Crawlers, a pack I really like in the current meta. I think it's powerful if you are comfortable playing aggro, because that is kind of what you want to do with this pack. Sabres, very tanky, very stat heavy, not the highest range, and so yeah, putting them on the front line often will give you the best results if you manage to get an early lead and then get those levels rolling. Apucci here with a balanced pack, Sledgehammer Marksman on the defensive and a Missile Specialist to boot. Not the best into this particular pack, and AWM here I think goes for Arclights because Hounds would get one-shot by the missiles. A little bit of a difference there. Normally I would prefer going for Hounds with this type of setup. I think that it skills a bit better, chaff clears a bit faster once you get it going than something like Arclight, and it's a pack of 5 instead of a pack of 1, just like Sabertooth. So because Hound has a different pack size, it tends to get countered by different things, and therefore it pairs more nicely with something like a Saber. But here it's worth picking up Arclight. It'll do well in the early game, and it's not going to get one-shot by those missiles that become available on round 2, crucially. Left side push, kind of expected. Apucci still deciding to go for a symmetrical layout. Now, the slight awkward part about this, with this building in the middle, is as you can see, some of the sledgehammers get pulled towards the center instead of actually going towards the Sabres. He does manage to get a debuff, though, with that Crawler behind his tower, and he should be able to take down the Chungus as well. But his tower's under fire. The Sabertooth will take it, and that should be round 1 going over to AWM. Kind of expected here. I think anytime you go for this type of symmetrical layout as the defender, you set yourself up for success later on. You have a solid base. It'll be hard for your opponent to start poking at your other tower, but you will likely lose, those first couple rounds. Round number 2, Improved Overlord shows up alongside some other Giant and Titan cards, and AWM quick to pick it up. It's a bit early, perhaps, I would say, for this card. Ideally, you would have it on like round 3 or 4 and immediately be able to buy an Overlord as a bit of a surprise. Now, Apucci will be able to see that Improved Overlord is coming and maybe allows him to prepare. But still, this card is very, very good. I would argue maybe on the overpowered side of things. If you can get this card going, it will just guaranteed win you the game in the mid stages and late stages of a particular game. Very powerful. Gets bonus splash, which kind of makes up for the one weakness of Overlord, which is it can get stuck on fast chaff like Crawlers. But with that bonus splash, it really doesn't have the same problem as much. And I mean, bonus attack hit points, you're never going to say no to that. It is expensive though. That's the one caveat. 600 for the Overlord now with that improved card. The card itself costs 100. And well, if you're not a Giant spec, but AWM is, you would have to pay the unlock price as well. So there's that. And maybe next round it'll be possible to go for one. We'll have to see. A unit drop could facilitate that. If it shows up and AWM can sell it, then he'll have a little bit more cash on hand. Still has to sell some of his buildings here. I would probably have him sell the wall. Goes for a Crawler. Wasp Swarm gets picked up from Apucci, who just goes for some aggressive play, and we have Crawlers in the back, so triple Crawler here to try and distract the Wasp. Not sure if this works. Normally, I think it has to be all the way on the up against the flank to pull all the Wasps away. When it's a bit more inside, some of the Wasps may eventually steer and go towards the tower. One of them does. 2 of them do. But still, that's slightly better than all of them going for the tower immediately, and it does stall that debuff for a good amount of time. Stalls it for so long, in fact, that one of the marksmen already went down, a Sledgehammer pack has fallen, and one Sabertooth is still alive. Of course, it will be a round win for Apucci because there's no anti-air for the time being for AWM. But still, I mean, you'll take this. If you can just kill all of the ground units and all that wins is this Wasp pack, which was a summon and not an actual unit on the board, you're perfectly fine, you know, having your opponent pay 100 for that when you went for a scaling card like Improved Overlord. It's good here, by the way, to not go for immediate anti-air. Usually it's something you should think about on round 2. Do I have anti-air? Would I lose to it? Especially with something like Wasp Swarm picked up. But if you know you're going to go into Overlord, that'll be more than enough as your sole source of anti-air. And it's worth kind of giving up around, buying a bunch of chaff, which you're going to need anyway, and then stalling for that anti-air later. Round number 3, another call-in shows up this time around. AWM does go for it. No unit reinforcements, which means that we know unit reinforcements will show up on round 4. And yeah, this will just be a bit of a tame round. So again, right, this card is kind of telling Apuchi what's coming. It's been picked up. It costs 100. You're up against a giant spec. It's basically guaranteed that they will have to invest into it. So, you know, do you feel comfortable with the couple marksmen you have, or do you want to buy something else? And Apuchi says he wants to buy something else, and he goes for a preemptive Farseer. Now, from what we know, there is no anti-air on the board just yet, because AWM didn't have the money to go for, you know, that Overlord. He could have tried to perhaps sell a Saber. That's another option, but they've been doing well. They're good frontline, and I think it feels a bit bad selling out of that. You do need something to kind of frontline for your Overlord, otherwise it will get locked onto. So I like this stalling play, kind of waiting for the unit drop and then going all out on round 4. The Rhino will drop in, and again, Apuchi should be able to get a tower debuff here, as the left side is going quite well, with a bunch of extra arc lights being picked up by AWM. So he's just kind of building everything that you need for Improved Overlord to succeed, making sure he has a bunch of chaff, buying those crawlers on round 2, adding some fangs as well to defend the flank on round 3, adding arc lights for his chaff clear, and then from that point onwards, all he needs to do is buy Overlords, get the crucial techs with range and overload, and yeah, just survive until you have, you know, 4, 5, 6 Overlords with the double tech. Here come the unit reinforcements. We did know they were going to show up. The things that are worth the most would be the Scorpion here. It's worth 450. You pay 50, so you make 400 profit. Void Eyes are worth 400, so 350 profit here. Fortress, 300 profit. And 350 as well for the Wraith, which is worth as much as the Scorpion. So, yeah. Quick pickup. AWM goes for it, but opts to keep it on the field. Now, it is a very powerful unit on round 4. Let's be honest here. Level 2 Scorpion, extremely tanky, and lots of DPS. Pretty good, all things considered, against, you know, boards like Sledgehammers and Farseer. But it's also worth a lot of money. And again, you know, if you want those Overlords to work, then it's not a bad idea to sell it. And so that's what's going to happen. Apuchi goes for the same thing, picks up, sells it, goes for range on the arc lights as the first player here, and picks up 2 more Farseers. Now, if we look at the tech bar on his Farseer, it is slightly odd. Range, burst, AA are all pretty standard, but missile intercept is not something you see a lot. Most people would run photon emission there. I know I do. And well, we'll see very shortly why he has this specific tech bar. I did happen to catch this game as it was happening live, and Apuchi gave, you know, his ideas as to why he was running this particular bar, and he's not opting to run photon emission. Anyway, 2 Overlords show up, thanks to selling that Scorpion, and they are completely overwhelming the left side of the board. Farseer, good against air, but it kind of needs the techs to be able to achieve that. And yeah, Improved Overlord, tons and tons of stats, that bonus splash, doing a number on Apuchi's units, and that is a massive round win for AWM. Apuchi losing a ton of hit points there in one go, well over 1,000, not what you want to see in the early game. Now, round 5, mid-game starts, and a bunch of big spells and items show up. Smoke Bomb, Electromagnetic Blast, I mean, both you could consider. I think Electromagnetic Blast perhaps a bit too early, as not a lot of techs are available yet. But Smoke you could definitely try and pick up if you're AWM. If it lands, that's going to create a ton of trouble for Apuchi. You could go for the spawn item as well, of course, which is what AWM does. Very strong item on Giants. I think I maybe would have tried my luck with the Smoke in this case, because I feel like improved Overlord doesn't really need even more scaling, which is what this item provides, right? Your difficult rounds are not rounds 5 through 7 or the late game, rather, round 7 plus. You kind of auto win that anyway if you have enough Overlords. Your difficult rounds are the early game. And so I think it's better to pick for spells that will help you get through that early game without dying, like Smoke. And you could have landed it here and it would have stuck around for another round afterwards, really crippling the aerial specialization on the Farseer. Still though, great item, Mustang production line. It will come in handy if the game goes long. But as we can see, that Farseer immediately locks onto it, and that's kind of the problem here, right? It was put onto a giant that's very far forward. In general, the whole board is far forward. So the round kind of ends pretty early here, and with even more Farseers picked up, you know, Apuchi just took a ton of damage, but now it'll be AWM's turn to, yeah, take this one on the chin. And so that's kind of why I think here, slight misplay, not perhaps realizing that late game is in the bag, early and mid game, which is where we're at right now, is what needs to be focused on. Round 6, second unit reinforcement pack shows up, and a bunch of different options that are decent. Tarantula gets picked up by AWM. It is worth less than the Wraith, but it's pretty useful chaff clear, and it's only worth 50 less than the Wraith. And of course, the Wraith is an air unit itself. So the problem is, if you buy the Wraith and you sell the other one, you still have to keep that one donut alive, and you're not going to be able to against the Farseer. So the Tarantula is slightly better here. It's tanky, and it'll be able to chaff clear for much longer because it's not going to get one-shot by the AA Farseers on the other side. Wraith instead gets picked up here for Apuchi. Great pick for him. The one thing he might be a bit afraid of is, you know, a tech like Subterranean Blitz or Loose Formation, although Loose Formation is not on the bar for AWM. And also, of course, Mothership on the Overlords. Wasps are annoying for Farseer to kill. They can do it, but it takes a long time, and against improved Overlord, that's usually not something you have. So you want to kill the Wasps as fast as possible, for which Wraith or Mustang tend to be more efficient. Now, this is where Missile Interceptor gets picked up. Range, by the way, on the Overlords for AWM as the first tech. He does need both, but doesn't have the money for it right now. He goes for an aggressive play on that right side instead with the Tarantula and the Overlord. But I was saying, Missile Interceptor now on the Farseer. And this is kind of why Apuchi is running this bar. It is specifically to deal with improved Overlord and trying to tempo them out. So he just spams Farseers left, right, center. And, you know, when you have the numbers, you will be able to overwhelm, typically, and perhaps intercept the Overlords well enough to give you a chance. Now, the one problem is, whilst it was looking good on the left side, the right side play from AWM gets through, grabs a debuff, and because of that, a couple of these Farseers start dying. And once they start dying, there's just less Missile Interceptor to go around. Keep in mind, Farseer has pretty poor Missile Interceptor efficiency. It's one of the worst in the game, kind of on par with something like Sabertooth Intercept, and it means that you need a lot of Farseer to be able to intercept even a singular Overlord, never mind when that Overload, you know, pops around. Round 7, end of the mid-game, couple of great spells, Underground Threat, Wasp Swarm, I think both somewhat of a mandatory pickup at this stage, great value for money, but AWM, again, greeding, going for the Absorption module. Once again, fantastic item late game on high-level Overlords, and can just kind of turn into this unkillable demon of a unit. But when you're on 1200 hit points, I'd be a little bit afraid here. I think I would have just picked up something like the Underground Threat or the Wasp Swarm. Now, Overload gets picked up. That was a requirement. When you're getting intercepted and you're playing Overlords, if you want to commit, and I mean, he kind of decided to, you need to get to double tech as fast as possible. Range Overload, mandatory. You have to have it. Then, you kind of need to stack your units. So, ideally here, what I would like to see is for AWM to just sell the Overlord on the right side and not build symmetrical. You want to overwhelm the left side of the board. to have your best chance. This could work if you get a debuff, but, you know, the question is, are you going to be able to? Apuchi picks up the Underground Threat, has the Rhino Assault available as well, which I don't exactly see where it is. I was just Goomba stomping on an Arclight over there. And the Crawler's here to distract the Tarantula and the Overlord. Is this going to be enough, though? Both players loaning. Burst picked up now on the Farseers for Apuchi. And he has a whole bunch of them here. Let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in total at this point. And look at that. Overlords left, right, center getting absolutely crushed. And, I mean, there's a couple of chaff left, but at this point, one Overlord is not going to be enough to punch through all of that missile interception, and Apuchi will manage to grab a win. So, congratulations there. Apuchi ended up winning this game and went on to win the whole thing. But I think this game, even though it was quite short, is pretty instrumental in kind of showing you what some of the ideas are when you're playing this type of aggressive strat from AWM. So, first and foremost, right, we had round 5, where a spell showed up, Smoke Bomb, alongside some very valuable items like Mustang Production and even Laser Sight. Again, Electromagnetic Blast is good, but at this point of the game, there's only one tech that's been clicked. You probably don't want to go for this. And yeah, Smoke Bomb seems really, really good here. It gives you early tempo. Your opponent kind of needs to shield, but, you know, will they want to do so? That's an expensive thing to purchase on round 5. And you're not even sure if it's going to get picked up. And then, you know, the Mustang Production line, it's great, but do you really need more winning conditions in the late game when you have one of the best late game cards, you know, just in general in Mechabellum? I'm not too sure. So I would have picked up the smoke here and just tried to survive for as long as possible so you get more rounds with more supplies and you can finally get to that win con of range overload and stacking your boats. And that's kind of the second point here. I already mentioned it, but AWM made a fantastic play on round 6, right? Catching Apuchi off guard with this unit drop and boat play, getting the debuff. And now Apuchi, instead of, you know, being able to kind of hard focus on the left side of the board, he also has to be a bit afraid of this right side. And I think typically, and this is a theme that is very common when you play aggro, you can either try and switch your board to the right side off of a unit drop, or you can create a threat that your opponent has to respond to, and then your opponent has to, you know, weigh the risk here, right? Are you going to keep investing on that right side, or alternative option, are you going to sell out of it? And I think here that should have been the case. So AWM got a lot of pressure. Apuchi now needs to respond. I'm going to pick one of the blue spells here. I'm going to go for Wasp Swarm because I think it's actually very useful against Farseer. It just will tank a couple of shots, a couple of salvos, and that's all you need to buy, or all the time you need to buy for your Overlords. So we want Launcher Overload, as I said, and instead of going for this right side attack, which will require more deployments, I'm going to sell out of that Overlord. I don't want it. Instead, I'm going to buy more Overlords on the left side and really try to stack them. So here we go. The Rhino I'm going to put on the right side because we do have to be a little bit wary of the enemy spells that they could pick up. And here I'm going to stack. And this is a theme that you will want to do whenever anyone tries to intercept your Overlords. You just want to stack all of them together, right? Overwhelm their missile interceptors. Take them out. If you manage to kill a couple of Farseers, the missile interceptors get worse and worse and worse because there's less of them. And then at that point, you can potentially break through, get a debuff, and finish the game that way. Now, I would like to have a mobile beacon because I would like to save this Overlord if I can. But at the same time, temp range is a little bit tempting. So I think I will have to go for temp range here. No point in using a missile. And I guess we're just going to have to go for something like temp speed. Try to really get in as fast as we can. So more Farseers get picked up. And as you can see, right, a bunch of deployments and even spells got used on that right side. The underground, more crawlers picked up, another Farseer. And now all of those units are stranded on a side of the board that I don't really care about that much. Meanwhile, left side is pushing through. As you can see, all of these are getting overwhelmed, and we should be able to win the round. Even better yet, we might even be able to win the game. It kind of depends on how much here survives. 3 Overlords and a bunch of Arclights. And it actually would have been enough. 1473. I believe Ipuchi was sitting at about 1300 something. So this was a very winnable game. And again, you kind of play off of these themes, right? If you play a lot of Overlord and you get intercepted, stack them. It's one of those giants that just benefits a lot from stacking them on one side of the board. Sure, eventually you might be able to go wide, but against interceptors specifically, you really want to stack them. There's a couple of other giants in the game that work like that. Notably, Raiden loves being stacked on one side of the board. Worms also can benefit from it quite a bit. The others, I guess, not so much. You don't want to stack your Vulcans. Fortresses can be stacked, I guess, if you're playing aggressive, but yeah, that's it's just one of those giants that really likes it when you do that and you just kind of overwhelm one side of the board. And yeah, as we can see, Ipuchi there would have died, so that could have been a thing. Anyway, I hope that you liked this video. If you did, please leave a thumbs up and let me know down in the comments what you thought about it. For the new season, I have been thinking about opening up viewer replays. I will make a dedicated post about that on my YouTube as to where you can send in your replays and what type of information I'd be looking for. But I think it's a good idea for me to maybe broaden the Mechabellum content a little bit and give you guys the, potential to send something in and perhaps get featured on the channel with some tips and tricks for everyone to have an idea, hey, what are the main, pitfalls of a certain MMR bracket, because of course, so far I'm mostly talking about very high MMR games that happen above 2000 or even, higher, 2200 MMR. Either way, if you like that idea and it sounds like something you want to see, be sure to let me know as well. If you like the video, leave a thumbs up. If you want to stay up to date with my latest content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.